I was tagged in this post, and this type of sucky situation is the direct consequences of these restrictive abortion bans that leave women with no options. So she says, am I the a hole for dropping off our baby on my ex husband and demanding he take the baby every other week, even though he wants to be an every other weekend dad? All right, so she's 28, he's 29. She says, this is so messy. My ex husband and I originally agreed not to have any children. We live in Texas, and this world just isn't a place I wanted to bring a child into. I also never wanted to be a mother. My IUD failed, and I got pregnant. I was devastated because I wouldn't be able to get an abortion since we live in Texas. I wanted to travel out of the state and get an abortion, and I wanted him to get a vasectomy since I didn't want to risk this happening again. He refused both. He said he wouldn't take me out of state to get an abortion, and he made me very scared of criminal charges. He also refused a vasectomy to prevent more children since he didn't want to mutilate himself. Long story short, I filed for a divorce a month after the baby was born. It took a little over 2 months for the divorce to be finalized, which was a month ago. Baby is now 4 months old, and the maternity leave that I was lucky enough to have is up. Ex husband has moved into his own apartment. I live alone in my home that I owned prior to marriage, that I inherited from my grandparents. Ex husband has been visiting the baby here and there on weekends, but hasn't had the baby overnight ever. I've suggested it, but he refused. To be honest, I don't really like being a mother. The baby and I just haven't bonded much. I've heard that sometimes it takes a while. I've been overwhelmed and I needed a break. I tried calling him and talking to him about agreeing to a custody situation. He blew me off and said he'll let me know when he finds a weekend that works for him. I was really pissed. I had this baby because of him largely, or I would have gotten an abortion. I love my baby, but I don't want to be a full time mom. I want 50-50. I work from home as a software developer. I'm lucky enough to be able to watch the baby while I work, so I don't have to pay for daycare, but I need time to be productive with my work. So I figure one week I can be unproductive while watching my child, and the next week I can work extra hard to make up for it. My job is flexible, so it'll work for me. My ex was dodging my calls, so I took our son in a diaper bag and showed up at my ex's work. He works as a car salesman. He was shocked to see me, and even more shocked when I handed him the baby. I told him, we're doing 50-50 custody. You have the baby this week. You can drop him off at my house next Monday. He freaked out, said, who will watch the baby while he works? I suggested he pay for daycare if he needs it. He said he can't afford daycare. We argued, and I told him to figure it out. If I have to figure out how to be a mom, he has to figure out how to be a dad. His parents are calling me every name under the damn sun. Meanwhile, they don't want to babysit for him. Am I the a hole? She says, edit. For all of you suggesting adoption, I tried that while I was pregnant. X refused. I couldn't give the baby up for adoption without his permission. Also, I've contacted lawyers about getting custody formalized, but I haven't heard back. This is the type of thing that these forced birther states want to force on women. They want to force women to be stuck. Like this woman was stuck because her husband held the cards, because her husband is in a state where he could just call the authorities on her if she had an abortion. And so what are her options? She said that she wanted to be child free. The birth control failed. This is the reason why people need to have options, because this child is going to be raised by two people that don't want him. The ex-husband forced her to have the child, and I mean, she did. So the baby is here. She had no choices in the matter. So what do you do? I mean, she was trying to explore all of the options. And now I think that she is doing the best thing that she can for herself and formalizing the 50-50 split to give herself the opportunity to have a break. And that's what moms need. Moms certainly need a break. And maybe if she has a break, it'll give her the opportunity to breathe, get some rest when it's his chance or his time to be with the baby, she can rest. And maybe then she'll have the space to be a little bit more relaxed when the baby comes back to her place. I don't know why these forced birthers want babies to be born, even to people that don't want kids, because we have talked about this. People in my own network have been born to people that don't want them. It is atrocious for everybody involved. It breeds resentment from those parents, and these kids grow up knowing that they are unloved and unsupported, that they have been a burden on them, that they have been a jail sentence, a prison sentence for these people that just have to deal with the consequences of sex versus somebody that just, I mean, being born to parents that actually loved them and wanted them and that kind of thing. So it's just a mess all around because of these forced birthers that think that they should, be able to make people do what they want. Anyways, let's get into some of these comments. A shamed director says, so he doesn't want the baby, but wouldn't allow you to abort and threaten you legal action if you did abort. He doesn't want to look after the baby, but refuses to allow you to adopt the child out. Yeah, you need to speak with a lawyer soon. Either he steps up and actually looks after his child a minimum of half the time, or he needs to sign the adoption papers. Does anyone really think that it's in the baby's best interest to grow up with two parents who fight to make the other parent make the other take him on the regular? Exactly. Unhappy Bee says, no, I would find an attorney and get him to the abandoned status of the baby, and then you could pursue adoption. That baby shouldn't grow up with both parents not wanting him. M. Revelle says the attorney can also send the ex a notice concerning how much child support he's going to have to pay. Say he only wants weekends, fine. He'll have to pay a pretty large amount. Your attorney can use that as an incentive for him to give up his rights and let the baby get adopted out. I feel the child needs to be with their mother and father, but if the birth parents don't want the child or are fighting all the time, then the child would do better with the parents through adoption. Boring Concept says, that was my first thought. No child deserves to grow up in two different homes that neither one want him. Talk to an attorney ASAP and figure out how to give this child a chance to grow up being loved and wanted. OP, you have no control over your ex getting a vasectomy, but I'd say you should check into have your tubes tied so that you can at least be sure this never happens to you again. Absolutely true. But it also depends on if they would even do it for her, considering she's not yet 30 and hasn't had a set amount of kids. Because in these these forced birther states, they don't want to give women what they want. They think that they know better. Like you might change your mind down the line. Muscle 91 says he can't have it both ways. If he didn't want the baby adopted or terminated, he takes on equal responsibility for raising him. You've tried every option and he blocked them all. So now he has to step up. You're not wrong to enforce shared custody. A lawyer will help make sure it's official. Maleficent Draft says he didn't want it terminated or adopted. He takes on all the responsibility of raising him. Look, and that's the thing. These people use babies as an anchor or as a punishment. He wanted to sit her down for whatever reason. He wanted to punish her with a baby, and he absolutely needs to be held responsible for his actions. This is what he wanted. He's going to have to pay, a babysitter. He's going to have to do part of his job. Take time off from his job or whatever. This is on him. Thought and Prayer says, yep, this is how I would approach it. He can either take sole custody with an option for OP to have visitation if she wants, or he can sign away his rights so the baby can be adopted. I think forcing him to take the baby for a week is a great idea. Maybe it'll be a wake-up call about his future. Now that he knows OP won't take responsibility for the child he forced on her. Maybe he'll decide adoption sounds pretty good after all. And maybe that will be the impetus for him to do this. Because at first he made her have a baby because it was all about control. She had to do what he says or she would have consequences of going to jail or paying a fine or whatnot. But now he needs to have consequences of his choices. And that's entailing him taking off work, him paying for childcare and all of that. Anyways, obviously, this woman is not the a-hole, but I do want to hear your thoughts on this. So join the conversation and don't forget to like, comment, and share.